Today's show is sponsored by the Electric Vehicle Association. Join up to support the electrification of transport today. And by Energy Sage. Plan your energy independence and insulate yourself from rising energy costs. And by you. Stick around to find out how you can help us remain 100% independent. Welcome back to another episode of TEN Transport Evolved News. Thanks for joining me. I hope that you are safe, well, and with someone you care about who also cares for you. We're kicking off today's show with the official reveal of Subaru's newest EV at the New York Auto Show, the Subaru Getaway. Subaru's largest EV to date, the Getaway is essentially Subaru's take on the new Toyota Highlander EV, but don't think that this is just a badge swap. While the two do share their core platform, the three-row Getaway gets standard all-wheel drive, Subaru's signature X-Mode off-road system with multiple terrain settings, and puts out 420 horsepower. That's 313 kilowatts, notably more than the 338 horsepower or 252 kilowatts the Highlander currently offers. Subaru says range is estimated at over 300 miles, 480-ish kilometres, from its 95.8 kilowatt-hour battery pack, and it can tow up to 3,500 pounds, about 1.5 metric tons. Plug it into a fast charger, NACS inlet is standard, and you're looking at a 10 to 80% top-up in about 30 minutes at up to 150 kilowatts. Pricing hasn't been yet announced, but expect it to cost more than the Highlander EV and the Kia EV9. Slate Auto, the EV startup backed by Jeff Bezos, has published a new video this week chronicling the progress being made in readying its compact electric pickup truck for market. Its latest video focuses on some essential cold weather testing at the Kaneohe Research Facility in northern Michigan. There, engineers put pre-production vehicles through extreme cold, driving through slush pits and then flash freezing them in Arctic-like cold temperatures before jumping behind the wheel and driving them. The prototype trucks performed as expected and let the engineering team tick off another round of checks on their way to full production. According to Slate, it's still on track to begin deliveries by the end of this year. While we still don't yet have a confirmed price point, Slate is still targeting a mid-$20,000 starting price, the same figure that it had in mind before incentives when the brand launched in 2025, and one that hasn't shifted despite the elimination of federal EV tax credits. Polestar and Volvo made a surprise announcement this week covering changes to Polestar's financial structure, along with a plan to shift all Polestar 3 production to the US. Announced on Tuesday, Volvo Cars, which shares a parent company with Polestar in China's Geely, has agreed to convert approximately $274 million in outstanding loans to Polestar into ownership shares, with a further $65 million conversion expected later this quarter. That follows a separate $300 million debt-to-equity deal by Geely itself, announced late last year. Together, the moves are designed to shore up Polestar's balance sheet. On the production side, all Polestar 3 manufacturing will now be consolidated at Volvo's plant in South Carolina, ending production of the model in China. That's a win for both firms on two fronts: capital expenditure savings for both companies and no more exposure to import tariffs on Chinese-made EVs heading into markets like Europe. Regulars to the show will know that we've been covering the horrific parade of EVs getting cancelled in the US in recent months, mostly as a result of an increase in anti-EV rhetoric and policy by the US White House. But this week, amidst gas in the US averaging more than $4 a gallon and some areas seeing prices nearly double that, Kia surprised us all by confirming the EV3 crossover will be coming to the US. The EV3 is a much-needed model in the North American market, combining the tech advances of some of Kia's newer EV models with the form factor and size of the now discontinued e-Niro. While it is built on the eGMP platform, the EV3 is a 400-volt variant, meaning it doesn't get the ultra-fast charging of the EV6 or EV9, but it does promise a 10 to 80% recharge time of 29 minutes, a 320-mile, 515-kilometre range on the EPA test cycle, and vehicle-to-load as standard. Unlike the e-Niro, it will also be available in all-wheel drive configuration and is expected to go on sale later this year. Prices have yet to be confirmed, but expect this to cross-shop against the new Chevrolet Bolt EV and Nissan LEAF. Toyota has, historically, been a little slow to promote electric vehicles despite its excellent original RAV4 EV more than 25 years ago. It's chosen instead to focus on hybrid and hydrogen fuel cell technology. But over the last few years, that's quietly been changing, and as we enter the second quarter of 2026, there's some significant data to suggest Toyota could soon become a dominant EV choice for many. While its original BZ4X crossover was a competent daily driver, it wasn't super competitive in the marketplace, but a mild refresh at the tail end of last year gave it some significant tweaks and a new name in the US, the Toyota BZ, and it's become surprisingly popular. This week, we learned that during Q1, Toyota's BZ outsold both the Chevrolet Equinox EV and the entire US Ford EV lineup. Folks outside of the EV world have long associated Toyota with eco-driving, despite the brand having repeatedly ranked as the worst major automaker for anti-climate lobbying, and it seems the refresh it gave the BZ, complete with a 25% increase in range and NACS as standard, was enough to get customers interested. In Q1 last year, the BZ4X wasn't even on the top 10 list of EVs in the US. Now it's overtaken last year's number 3 champion. While EV sales around most of the world have remained strong through the first quarter of this year, just published data from Cox Automotive shows a significant new car sales drop in the US. It's no surprise. For the entirety of last year, President Trump enacted anti-EV policies in the White House and, through the One Big Beautiful Bill, ended all federal incentives for EV purchases. But while new EV sales fell 28% year over year during Q1 in the US to 212,600 sales, Cox Automotive notes that the used EV sales market is soaring amidst increasing oil prices caused by the US-Iran war, which President Trump categorized as being transient during a live address on Wednesday night. Used EV sales surged 12% year over year in Q1 to 93,500 sales, showing renewed interest in more affordable motoring. Interestingly, used EV sales prices were also the closest they've ever been to comparable gasoline cars, highlighting an increase in affordability. With more EVs expected to come off lease in 2026 than at any point in history prior, expect the used EV market to become even more appealing for first-time buyers. And as I noted in last week's show, President Trump's obsession with Iran might actually do the opposite thing that he had been hoping for. General Motors confirmed this week it temporarily laid off more than 1,300 staff at its Factory Zero EV facility, formerly known as Detroit Hamtramck, from the middle of March until the middle of April. The facility produces GM's large electric models, including the Hummer EV, Cadillac Escalade IQ, Chevrolet Silverado EV, and GM's C Sierra EV, and has been shuttered since March 16th. GM says reduced sales are responsible for the decision to temporarily halt production, which is expected to resume around April 13th. GM says while employees are technically in a temporary layoff, they may be eligible for sub-pay and benefits in line with those agreed through the UAW's national contract with the automaker. But this is particularly worrying given that GM permanently laid off around 1,200 staff at the same plant just 3 months ago, with GM already indicating it's shifting its focus towards reintroducing more gas-guzzling models. Its EV future does look increasingly uncertain. For more than a month, Verge motorcycle subsidiary Donut Lab has been teasing us with data surrounding its new claimed solid-state battery pack. This week, instead of drip-feeding more battery data, Verge Motorcycles confirmed that its new model year TS Pro, complete with said solid-state batteries, is now officially in production. On its YouTube channel, the company shared footage of its first example rolling off the production line and getting crated up to be sent to its first customer. Moving forwards, the high-performance motorcycle will be available with a choice of 20.2 kilowatt-hour or 33.3 kilowatt-hour battery pack, with a starting price expected to start at just under $30,000. That's more than the entry-level Chevrolet Bolt EV, and the higher capacity battery is expected to cost significantly more. I'm eagerly awaiting some seat time, so if Verge Motorcycle are watching, please add me to your press list for the launch. as a side note, I want to acknowledge that some viewers rightly called out my take on Donut Labs' stress testing of an already damaged cell in last week's show. I called the test questionable, and you quite correctly pointed out that the intent was to show a damaged cell could still perform safely under 5C conditions. I get it, fair point, but in the real world, with variables you can't control, continuing to use a known broken cell is never advisable. In fact, I would argue the gold standard should always be to stop use and then replace it. We cover the gap between what autonomous driving companies claim their systems can do and what they're actually approved for a lot on the channel. And today we're back there again with a story that genuinely made my blood boil. Tesla's official North American X account retweeted an interview with a 71-year-old man named Ricky who was buying his first Tesla on the recommendation of his ophthalmologist because he's experiencing vision loss, and his eye doctor suggested Tesla's FSD would allow him to keep driving. Tesla's account retweeted it with one word: freedom. But let's be absolutely clear. FSD is not eyes off, it's not approved for unsupervised operation or anything else, and anyone using it as a substitute for functional vision is driving illegally and putting every other road user at risk. And the ophthalmologist who recommended this? That is a serious professional failure. Doctors do not get to prescribe autonomous cars as a workaround for legally disqualifying medical conditions. If you have uncorrectable vision loss, you should not be driving. Full stop. Tesla should be ashamed of that retweet and frankly investigated for it, and the ophthalmologist who recommended this should be answering to their licensing board. And finally, for this segment, some genuinely good news from the world of renewables. And I want to quickly note that last week I described Ember's 814 gigawatt figure as wind generation when it was actually solar and wind combined. The number stands, I just dropped half of the sentence. Sorry. This week, new data from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, reviewed by the Sunday Campaign, shows renewables accounted for 88% of all new US grid power capacity last year, with solar recording 28 straight months of dominance, making up more than 72% of all new capacity in 2025 alone. Wind also outpaced natural gas in the capacity additions for the full year. Meanwhile, globally, IRENA, that's the International Renewable Energy Agency, reported this week that the world added 692 gigawatts of renewable capacity to the grid in 2025, a 15.5% increase over the previous year. Now, that's a lower number than Ember's 814 gigawatts from last week, but here context is queen. IRENA focuses on grid-scale capacity, while Ember's figures from last week also captured rooftop and distributed solar installations. Both numbers are right, they're just measuring slightly different slices of the same growth story. And either way, the direction is the same, up and accelerating, because renewables are cheap to deploy, locally sourced, and increasingly reliable, and they're doing more than fighting climate change. They're making our grids more resilient. And with the Middle East looking increasingly unstable, the case for reducing the world's dependence on foreign oil has never been clearer. And if you would like to play a part in that transition and you're in the US, you should talk to our friends at Energy Sage. Energy Sage connects you with local verified solar installers across the US and now heat pump specialists in select markets. And if you're not a homeowner, no worries. You can still green your electricity by joining a community solar program. I personally used Energy Sage when we decided to put solar on the roof of our home, and their verified pros were knowledgeable and extremely professional. Our local Energy Sage verified installer even put us in touch with a credit union that allowed a special low-interest loan program that we could finance with. Granted, there aren't any federal incentives in the US for solar installations right now, but there are still local funds in many places, and Energy Sage can help you navigate that process, allowing you to maximize your investment. So follow the links below to sign up for either of Energy Sage's free no-obligation services and get started today. And disclaimer, if you choose an Energy Sage installer, we will also receive a small referral fee, so you'll be helping us too. Help the grid get greener, save money, gain energy independence, and support this channel. It's a win-win-win-win. And now it's time for our recall reminders, and as usual, you'll find full details on our website. Nissan has officially issued a recall campaign for its new LEAF in Japan after noting a manufacturing defect in affected cars' battery packs that could lead to internal short circuits. Lucid is recalling Lucid Gravity SUVs made before Valentine's Day this year to address an issue with the second row lap seatbelt anchors. They may not be secured properly. And finally, for the recalls, Stellantis is recalling its Jeep Wagoneer S in the US to address improperly attached rear hinge covers on the liftgate that could separate from the vehicle while driving. Owners will be notified. And that's it for the recall reminders. Now it's time for our news shorts. As usual, you'll find full links on our website to the cover stories at transportevolved.com. Charging specialist Kempower has partnered with Windrose and EV Reality to deploy a megawatt charging station in San Bernardino, California. It's the first Kempower MCS deployment in North America. Austrian contract manufacturing specialist Magnister has begun production of the GAC Aion UT, the second GAC model to be made there, allowing the Chinese automaker to avoid EU import tariffs on Chinese-made EVs. Amazon-backed robotaxi firm Zoox has announced changes to its service in the US, with expanded service coming to San Francisco and Las Vegas, plus new testing in Austin and Miami. Renault's circular economy joint venture, The Future is Neutral, has expanded its AutoLOOP platform to streamline EV battery collection and recycling across Europe. This will help manufacturers meet new EU battery recycling rules. Germany has proposed draft legislation that could fine charging operators up to €100,000 for failing to display transparent pricing at charging sites. It's closing a loophole that previously left EU rules on hidden fees essentially unenforceable in Germany. Geely has expanded the availability of its E5 SUV and plug-in hybrid Starray EMI across more markets in Europe. Spain, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium and Luxembourg sales have now officially all begun. Talking of Geely, it has just signed a letter of intent with a subsidiary Volvo to make Volvo the official importer of Lynk Co cars into Europe. Lynk Co is also owned by Geely. The Scottish Government has announced a new £17.8 million sterling funding programme through until the end of next year, designed to support EV adoption. It will help expand public, workplace and home charging. BMW has introduced a new entry-level variant of its popular iX3 EV. The new variant, the iX340, will drop the entry-level price point by about €7,500 and will be rear-wheel drive. Valeo has officially begun production at a new facility in Pune, India. The facility will make 3-in-1 e-axles for Mahindra's new Born Electric brand. Researchers at Fraunhofer IFAM in Germany have developed a new alternative to hydrometallurgical battery recycling that makes use of electrochemical recovery. The city of Copenhagen has completed its public transit transition to electric. Its final 2 bus routes to make the switch became all-electric at the end of March. Australia's Clean Energy Finance Corporation has signed a deal with Volkswagen Financial Services Australia to offer discounted loans for EV purchases for both private and business customers. Lloyd's Register has signed a new contract with the Eco Marine Group to facilitate the establishment of Western Australia's first electric ferry service, located on Perth's Swan River, from next year. Freelander, an independent brand spin-off from Jaguar Land Rover and Chery, has unveiled the Concept 97 in Shanghai. It's meant to preview a new all-electric model due as early as later this year. A new research project by Austria Labs, Infineon Technologies Austria and AVL List has built an alternative to 12-volt starter batteries for EVs. It uses semiconductor switches to draw low-voltage power directly from an EV's high-voltage battery pack. After Volkswagen's group joint venture with Rivian hit a new milestone, winter testing of Rivian's tech in Volkswagen's future vehicles, another $1 billion of funding has been released to Rivian by the German brand. Workhorse has announced a new, more affordable variant of its W56 Step van. The new version includes a 140 kWh battery and is priced from $169,000. A new bipartisan bill in the US Congress could bring about national e-bike regulations at last, governing maximum power and speed as well as minimum age requirements. In just 1 hour, Toyota's just launched BZ7, a luxury Chinese market EV, secured 3,100 pre-orders online, making it one of the most in-demand EVs to launch in China this year. SK Signet has just unveiled a new super compact 400 kilowatt ultra-fast EV charger. It's an all-in-one unit containing both the dispenser and the power electronics in just one case. Hyundai unveiled a new SUV concept this week at the New York Auto Show. It previews a future model that could be offered in electric, plug-in hybrid and range-extended EV variants, and rumours suggest it might be body-on-frame. Hyundai also teased 2 new Ioniq badged EVs this week, calling them the Ioniq Earth and Venus. There's not really a lot of else information to go on other than we know they will be electric. Candela has launched the P12 Business Ferry, a new higher-end variant of its existing P12 hydrofoiling ferry. It features fewer seats, but with more lavish appointments. As gas prices soar around the world, Uber has announced it will be expanding its US EV grant program nationwide, offering drivers up to $6,500 to transition to all-electric models. A new study by DKV Mobility shows that EV adoption across European company car fleets is so good that EV is now considered the norm. More than 1/2 of surveyed firms aim to go electric within the next 2 years. Volkswagen has opened pre-sales in China for the Unix 08, a Unix sub-branded car it's built in collaboration with Chinese firm XPeng. The 5-seat SUV features 2 Turing smart driving chips from XPeng. A new research project has launched in Germany, led by Fraunhofer IFAM. It aims to improve the recycling rate of cell-to-pack battery systems using robot-based disassembly methods. BYD's latest delivery figures show that more than 40% of its total sales volume last month came from outside of China. It set records for the brand, allowing it to continue to grow as Chinese EV demand weakens following new rules on EV purchase taxes. Honda has cut the price of its Prologue EV in the US by $7,500, equivalent to the now discontinued federal tax credits on EVs. It should make the car more competitive in the marketplace. In a new interview this week with Top Gear, Volkswagen's brand CEO Thomas Schaefer confirmed that physical controls are now non-negotiable for future Volkswagen models. The company plans to make its EVs more button-filled. Republican Senator Bernie Moreno, known for his dislike and distrust of EVs, has proposed new legislation in the US that would expand rather than reduce bans on Chinese EVs. He called them a cancer on America. US spec BMW i5s are the first BMW models to go on sale in North America with a NACS inlet as standard. For a while, which charge port you got depended on trim levels, but now apparently all models are NACS. Talking to BMW Blog this week, BMW's product boss Bernard Korber confirmed that while BMW isn't ruling out a return to range-extended models, it also seems to suggest new models don't really need one thanks to improvements in battery tech. BP Pulse has broken ground on what it says is the first large-scale EV charging hub in Australia from the brand. It's located at Melbourne Airport and will include 24 charging bays. The Indian government has extended its PM eDrive program for 2- and 3-wheelers, with a new end date of the end of July this year for 2-wheeler incentives and the end of March 2028 for 3-wheelers. Škoda has teased details of its new large electric SUV, the Peaq. It will go on sale halfway through this year and will offer seating for up to 7. Range is expected to exceed 600 kilometres. The EU has softened how truck makers meet CO2 rules after industry pressure, giving them more flexibility before 2030 while keeping the headline targets largely unchanged. Google has announced that it's bringing AI-powered route planning and charging features to its Android Auto system for EV owners. It aims to make driving and charging an EV more predictable. The Oxford Bus Company has announced it will be welcoming 13 new electric buses to its fleet following a £5.1 million investment into electrification. The funding came from its parent company plus funds from Oxfordshire County Council. Toyota is poised to join a hydrogen fuel cell joint venture called Cellcentric that focuses on heavy-duty fuel cell vehicles. Daimler Truck and Volvo Group are also joint inaugural members. And finally, for the shorts, Toyota has revealed official pricing in Australia for its first all-electric ute, the HiLux EV. While the HiLux ICE variant is known for being generally quite affordable, the EV version will start at 75,000 Australian dollars. Ouch. And that's it for your news shorts. There will be more next week. Our final 2 news stories are in a moment, but first a word from one of our most important sponsors to the channel, you. For more than 15 years, we've brought you news on cleaner, greener, safer, smarter and more equitable transportation and energy. We're not backed by corporations and we don't have massive production budgets. Our small team works hard every week to deliver well-researched, honest content. We've refused paid editorial influence and focused on content rather than revenue. But good videos don't pay the bills when YouTube ad revenue is being sucked away by corporate greed and AI nonsense. And as a point of note, last year, more than $15,000 of our earned income was just spirited away by payment processors and companies taking their cut before even reaching our company books. Even though I had to pay tax on it, that's $15,000 I couldn't pay the team or myself. And yes, I did list it as an expense. And as the cost of making videos and doing business has soared, we've tightened our belts. But we are about as tight as we can get. So in order to keep doing this, we need to keep the funds coming in. So if you are able, and I truly mean only if you are able and willing, please consider supporting us from as little as $1.50 a month. And remember that every little really does help. And if you can't support us financially, also remember that just sharing our work, reposting it, and engaging with us on social media will help more than you might think. To everyone who already supports us, however you do it, thank you. You are the reason we're still here. And now let's get to those final 2 stories. To yoke or not to yoke? It's been a debate in the EV industry for at least 5 years, and I, like many of you, prefer an old-fashioned wheel for controlling my vehicle's direction. But this week, Mercedes-Benz confirmed that starting with this model year, the EQS will be available with a steering yoke, a first of the brand thanks to a new drive-by-wire technology. Instead of a traditional steering column, the EQS features a fully drive-by-wire system, allowing adaptive steering input, gentle adjustments at high speed, and more aggressive turns at lower speed. Obviously, the proof is in the driving, so I will reserve my official full judgment until I get behind the wheel. So far, I haven't enjoyed driving a single EV with a yoke, which means Mercedes-Benz has its work cut out to convince me that it is actually the future. So, watch this space. And finally, it was April 1st this week, a day that is either a blessed relief from the news cycle or a reason to hide from the headlines. Here at TE, we had our own April Fool's video thanks to our videographer Vi. Go check it out if you haven't seen it yet. I'm not going to explain it here, but across the European EV industry, I noted that there were some fun posts worth a mention this week. For example, Verizon revived the classic ICE air freshener gag with de diesel and a nostalgia mode that plays authentic diesel engine sounds into the cabin. Ron Energy announced a dating feature for EV owners that you could use while charging, while Technagon claimed it was combining EV chargers with vending machines. But my personal favourite, one I really wish were real, was Ionity's robot, one designed to lift cars that were icing charging stations out of the way. Legally, it's probably not that easy to do, but that would be a really great thing to have in the real world, right? And on that note, we are done for today's show. But first, a massive thank you to the Electric Vehicle Association for sponsoring us. The EVA has been advocating for EVs since 1967 and remains firmly committed to a cleaner, greener future for everyone. Join the EVA today to learn out how to become an EV educator, meet like-minded EV fans, and get help making your own transition to electric. Help that also includes a low-interest loan program to help finance your next step. So find out more at myeva.org. And thanks as well go to Energy Sage. Follow the link below to start planning your own energy-independent future today. And of course, thank you. If you're able, please consider supporting us from as little as $1.50 a month on Patreon, but supporting us can also mean sharing our content, joining our Discord, promoting us on social media, or using our affiliate links, all of which are linked below. And if one-off donations are more of your thing, we also have a PO Box and Ko-fi. Both are great ways to help keep us going. And if you want to make sure you don't miss our stuff, remember we publish new content every week. And if you follow us on YouTube and PeerTube, also make sure you follow us on social media. Mastodon is our preferred, or just join our Discord chat room. And yes, we are also working to add a new Fluxer chat room so that we can transition away from Discord. There's a whole list of reasons behind that, but if you are interested, there's a link down below for early adopters in the down below to test it out. Finally, I want to remind you of the important stuff. You are valid, you are loved, you belong, and you have a purpose. Every week I stand here and I say that you matter, and I truly do believe it. But as things here in the US become increasingly authoritarian and we all witness either from near or far, it can be hard to believe that things will ever feel safe or normal again. And this week's news cycle hasn't helped, especially for the LGBTQIA+ communities and immigrant communities. More US Supreme Court decisions that seemingly support conversion therapy. And I want to note that that is a dangerous and horrific practice that most civilized nations have already banned. And then, we had bathroom bans, including one in the next state over from us that carries a repeat offender prison sentence more severe than you would get unaliving someone while being drunk at the wheel, or indeed abusing children. And that's simply for trying to visit the restroom in peace. And let's not forget the threats made by a madman on the rest of the world for not singing along to his holy war hymn sheet. So I know some hate me getting political, or Kate when she was here getting political, but without us and the rest of the team telling you what's going on and how it's affecting our lives and the people we care about, I think many of you genuinely wouldn't know, because these things don't come up in your everyday life. And a lot of policies and laws already directly impact our ability to travel to different places, either here in the US or further afield, or in fact to just make videos, to make content. And without intentional action from everyone watching, wherever you are in the world, it's going to get worse. We are at a depressing and scary time in history, but it is also okay to feel that burden and want to isolate from it. And I suggest that when we feel like that, we do that for our own mental well-being, when required, so that we can return stronger to fight for a cleaner, greener, safer, smarter, and more equitable world, one rooted in justice, fairness, and a shared goal. Also, this is unscripted, but I want to say thank you to so many of you who came up to me while we were at No Kings in my local city the other day and said hello. Some of you said hello while I was in suit. You knew who I was. I wasn't a giant dog called Queenie. I was actually me underneath. So thank you for saying hello and keep making your voices heard. Okay, in the meantime, let your light shine wherever you are, whoever you are, and whoever you love. Thank you for being that positive change that we all need to see in the world. And as always, keep the faith. Keep evolving.